If your current state of mind is being described as aggressively fine, pull up a seat. You're in the right place. Welcome to Surviving Ish. I'm David, your host, and I'm joined by a TikTok social media friend. And this is our first time actually meeting somewhat in person and hearing each other's voice. Heather Ford, my friend, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I can't believe, I love social media for these reasons. And, I just have like friends and people just all over the world in place now. And we get so used to like TikTok lives and stuff like that we just feel like we already know each other. And then we actually log in and hear each other's voice. And we're like, oh, that's what we sound like. So let me ask you, what are you surviving-ish?
Well, a couple of things. So I'm surviving a cult that I escaped from. And then as far as my professional career, I'm surviving pre-K.
Oh, wow. Oh, you're a pre-K teacher?
I teach 4 and 5-year-olds, and let me tell you, they talk.
How long have you been doing that?
6 years.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. I bet the stories you have.
I could write it, yeah. The stories the things that these kids say, and the things that are said and done. I'm like,
Is there one that
oh,
always just pops into your mind that you would want to share with us?
oh God, one that would be appropriate.
Well,
uh,
there's no filter here, so it's all
so
good.
just as of recent, over the past 2 weeks, I had the assistant director's daughter come in, because holidays and stuff. So she came in to be with our school agers, and she was in my classroom, and she was trying to put something together, or she's putting something away, and she goes, "Motherfucker!" And I'm like,
Yes. But you know what? I
baby.
appreciate the no filter. Like they will tell you as it is, as they see it.
Yeah, and she thought she was in trouble. I was like, I'm not gonna tell mom, but don't say that word again.
But let's not do that again. My favorite toddler story that a lot of us got to witness but was not there in person is when Elon Musk's son told Donald Trump on television that he was not the real president. Did you see that?
I did.
Wasn't that hilarious? Okay, while he's wiping boogers all over the desk. Oh my gosh. Okay,
Oh,
so here's what I'm surviving-ish. I think I have a little bit of an OCD problem that didn't realize, but I am not happy unless the numbers on like my volume and like the car or on my television is in increments of five. I can't have something on 26. It's got to be on 25. I can't have something on 38. Like it has to be in increments of five, and it never fails. The increment of five that I need it to be on is either too loud or too low, and the perfect is somewhere in the middle, and I can't stand it, and I choose to be miserable and unhappy knowing that I can't either hear something too loud or not hear something hardly at all because of I need it on an increment of five and I can't get past it.
my gosh.
I can't do it. And no one else seems to have this problem but me. And so when I'm a passenger in someone's car and they like bump the radio up or down and it's not on an increment of five, I'm like, am I allowed to touch things in their car? Am I allowed to make decisions? Is this going to cross a line or a boundary? And my ex and I, we have fought about it. I'm like, you know how I feel about this. Does anything like that get to you?
Um, Sometimes I have a thing like, well, I feel like it's kind of everybody's thing. Like I have to have the heat on, and like I get into fights with roommates. I'm like, dude, it's too cold down here. Like I gotta turn this heat up.
Yeah. I have to have my room cold because I want to have a lot of blankets. And if you're
um,
sleeping in bed with me, we're cuddling. So I like to have my room cold.
no, nobody wants me as a roommate because,
What do you keep your temperature set at?
well, right now I have it turned up to 69, 70 for the heat. because I like it warm.
But you know what? Like that's what mine is at. Like I think they say like 72, at least here, is like the perfect place, and mine's usually set at 69 or 70. But I have like a space heater in my bathroom that I turn on in the mornings because I want my bathroom to be like a sauna. But I have to have my bedroom cold.
Oh, see, no, I can't. No. Mm-mm.
So I
Mm-mm.
just turn the vent off in my bedroom.
No, I have to have the heat.
I have to have a bunch of blankets though. Like I have,
Same here.
yeah,
It could be like hot as ever in the summer, and I'm like, I gotta have all these blankets.
I know if I'm laying down, I have to have a blanket.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah,
Thing. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so on to a bigger topic. Let's talk about your book. Introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about you and what we can look forward to with this book.
Yeah, so I'm Heather, and I am a former foster care survivor, religious cult survivor, and suicide survivor. So I wrote a book. It took over 2 years to write. This the book strictly is about my sister and I escaping our religious cult. Um, and we were brought into it from the foster care system via through our biological aunt, which is kind of how we got into the whole thing. It's a hot mess. Like to dive into all that and to dissect that, we'd be here for another 3 hours. But it's a hot mess. And from that point, it was hell on earth. If I had to do one or the other over again, it would definitely be the foster care system. That was a walk in the park to me. Both my sister and I went through excruciating spiritual abuse, physical abuse, mental, verbal, public humiliation, public shaming. And then I went through 7 years of sexual abuse at the hands of one of the pastors there at the time. And my aunt was in on it. She pretty much set the whole thing up. And there's a lot there that again, we'd be here all day dissecting that. And so both my sister and I eventually we escaped. My sister escaped in 2001. By the time she was completely out, it was 2004, which was when I was graduating high school. And side note, just something, a little fun fact about me, I did not get a high school diploma. I got a certificate of completion because when you're in a cult religious school and you have special needs, they don't acknowledge that. They make you get a certificate of completion. And if you don't know the difference between the two, it's just the certificate of completion is saying that you completed a certain number of classes to graduate, and the diploma is saying that you completed all the classes, passed, and you passed your SATs. I didn't have to do the SATs, but that's just a little insight into the religious cult school. So not getting my diploma actually harmed me and did more harm to me than anything. Because I actually had to go back and get my GED. I actually had to go back and take the two math courses that I should have taken, the whole 9 yards. And then I escaped in 2006. Um, Without getting into the details, my aunt and I were at a 8 hour prayer service, and my yeah, my aunt prior to that had pulled me out of a special needs school because she quote unquote said that I was not living biblically up to the standards of the organization's rules, and that I was committing adultery and fornication. um
Was this before or after she set you up to be sexually assaulted by the pastor?
oh, this is way after, yeah. So after the whole thing had stopped, and I was in a special needs program, that's kind of when I was being accused of fornication and adultery. And if you know, I was a child. There's just no way any of that was happening. And so basically brought me home, and actually she dropped me off at a hotel on the side of a freeway in Boston. It was like, you have 3 nights to basically get on your knees and make it right with the Lord before you come back into my home. So I played the game, right? There comes a point where to survive, you have to play the game. You gotta suck it up. And so that's what I did, and made up a whole bunch of crap just to get home. Got home, and it just, one thing, it just erupted. At the time I was talking to my birth mom and my third grade teacher who had left the organization as well. So I was on the phone with her trying to explain to her what was going on and saying, hey, like, I need to get out. And my aunt caught on, and that night, I remember I was in the kitchen making a lunch for the next day. And she came out of her prayer closet, like demanding to know who I was talking to and what I was doing and what I was saying and who I was saying it to, the whole thing. And in that moment, I just grabbed a butcher knife and it went right to my throat, and I was done. That was my way out, and I threw the knife down on the counter and ran upstairs to my room, locked the door. And next thing I know, there's a parade of police officers pounding on the door. My aunt had obviously called the cops, and they had actually put my hands behind my back, ready to arrest me. And I was like, trying, like, they literally pulled me out of the closet and they're like, listen, like, you can go willingly or we can make you go, but something's going on. I said, oh yeah, absolutely, something's going on, and I'm trying to tell you guys. And so the long story made short, I obviously willingly went. That was my way out. I was put under 48-hour watch at a hospital in Hartford, Connecticut. And after the 48 hours was up, the social worker said, okay, call your aunt, have her come get you. Okay, so here's the plot twist. Here's the fire. Here's the bomb that's going to be dropped. So I called her, and she's like, "Well, I told you this was it. You're not coming back in my home. You're not allowed. Like, the Lord's told me you're to be done. Like, you're on your own. I want nothing more to do with you. You've disgraced me. You've disgraced God. You need to repent." And I told the social worker, and let's just say she had some colorful choice words to say. And basically it was like, listen, if you're not going to do the right thing and take her home, you got to take her somewhere. So the current lead pastor of this organization and my aunt pulled up to the hospital, got me in the car, dropped me off at a homeless shelter in Manchester, Connecticut at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. And basically was like, yeah, we're like, you're not welcome back until you've repented. We want nothing more to do with you. I'm done with you. 2 days later, my birth mom agreed to come get me. And that only happened because of a conversation with my sister and I. It wasn't ideal, it wasn't the safest, but it was better than being in a homeless shelter. I absolutely regret that. Like, obviously, now I know that that was not a good choice, just because she had been drunk and drinking. But my birth mom came to get me, and 2 days prior, the current lead pastor and my aunt dropped me off, or dropped all of my stuff off, sitting in the parking lot of this homeless shelter. And I have receipts for all of this. I have proof. It's in the book.
Mm.
So yeah, so in a nutshell, that's how I got out. That is legit how I got out. By the time it was all said and done, it was probably 2007-ish. Kind of fast forward, the last time I actually spoke to said aunt was in 2017, when my birth dad was dying of cancer. There are some things that, when my sister called me, I always knew, okay, either someone died or I'm in trouble. Like, that was it. Like, either shit, I'm in trouble, what did I do, or someone died. And so I remember walking across the street to a Taco Bell to kind of get some Wi-Fi, and I was like, Nicole, what's going on? And she's like, well, I kind of got to talk to you. It's about our dad. And I was like, what's going on? And she's like, well, he's not good. He's in the hospital. They're saying he's got a certain amount of time before he dies from cancer. And so that whole time frame, during that time frame, like, we were trying to figure out what we're gonna do. Like, I was gonna go back. I flew into Boston to see her so we could go kind of just make our peace and say our goodbyes to him. And it was in that time frame where I was scrolling social medias on my Facebook, and I am friends with the abuser's daughters, right, on Facebook, at the time. And we were all friends on Facebook just because we were in the same organization together. We had spent over, when you spend 7 days a week with these people, like, and you become friends and you share things. And so I had seen on one of the daughter's pages, I'd seen a picture of her and her dad, and it creeped me out. I literally felt nauseous to my stomach and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, something's off. Like, what is it about him that makes me feel sick? Like I get like just oh, like skin crawling, you want to vomit, like something's off. And that night I had gone to bed and I had had a nightmare of their dad doing stuff to me. And I was like, huh? I was like, and in this situation, obviously I had kind of blocked all of that out, but to be sure to kind of talk about it, like I basically went to my therapist and I said, I had this nightmare. I guess I want to run this through you, like, because this I've been having flashbacks all day. And then that next night, I had another one. And then the next night after that, I had a nightmare of him doing stuff to me. And so I called the therapist and I got on the phone and I said, I need to address this. This needs to be brought up. This needs to be talked about, but I want to make sure I'm good here before I just go saying something. Because oftentimes people with trauma and PTSD, sometimes they can get their not their wires crossed but their memories mixed, not purposefully
Sure.
in any way, but they can just get, like, oh, did this really happen, or this happened, but did this happen with this person, it really happened with that. So I wanted to make sure everything was aligned, and sure enough, everything is true. My therapist came to help me with the terms of, like, yeah, he sexually abused you. And in that moment, I was done. I was like, oh my God, I have to call out my aunt. I have to bring this to her attention. I have to call her out. And so I did. I picked up the phone. It was actually 2 days after my dad died. I picked up the phone and I said to her, I said, hey, like, I need to run something by you. I said, and I gave her the age at the time I was. And I said, I remember you bringing him up to my room, you handing him a bottle of olive oil with a Bible, and you were on the phone with the lead cult leader from New Jersey, and you walked out of my room and you left me alone with him for over an hour. And in that time frame, he was sexually abusing me. Were you aware of this, or what was going on? And her first response was like, no, I had no idea. I wish you had told me. I was like, well, I wasn't allowed. He threatened me. And she's like, well, what do you mean he threatened you? And I'm like, he literally threatened to hurt Nicole if I said something. And then she started playing the game of, well, I honestly don't even remember. Like, I know it was sunny outside and your blinds were up. And I remember walking by your window and seeing your window open. Like, she was just, I mean, you name it, she was nitpicking it, talking about trying to cover up the abuse, right? And then she was like, I don't remember being on the phone. I was like, well, I just told you verbatim what you were doing. I said, for every detail. And I know that you were on the phone with her because I could hear you saying her name. So the fact that you're trying to deny any of this, and then she kind of brings out the whole truth and she's like, well, I was aware that he was abusing his own daughters. And I'm like, oh, so now you're saying you were aware that he was doing this to his own daughters, and you left him alone with me in your home, in my bedroom, unattended, and I was a child. And I said, you can't. And she's like, you have to imagine, I was a single parent and I was doing the best that I could. I thought I was dealing with a spiritual issue, and you were so out of control. Don't you remember how out of control you were? So that victim shaming, putting it back on me. And I mean, she finally fessed up and was like, yeah, I knew. And and so this begins the whole journey of, and I had told my sister too, I called her prior, and she's like, I'm not surprised because he had done this to his own daughters. And she was like, if there's any legal action you want to take, let me know. Because at the time, she was with the Boston Police Department. So she's like, I can reach out and see what I can do, yada, yada, yada. And I never took her up on it. I wish I had, but I didn't. I didn't want to get her too much involved because honestly, she wasn't present at the time of all of that. And so kind of fast forward to all of this, right? Like, my sister had gone her separate way. I had gone my separate way. She had been welcomed back into our foster family. I'm still kind of disgraced because they believe the lies that my aunt told. And so fast forward to 2023. On August 6th of 2023, um, I woke up, started my day with the typical routine of my coffee, the whole nine yards, got back into bed and did some journaling, did some art kind of thing. And then I picked up my phone to scroll through Facebook, and I came across a Facebook post that my foster sister had posted, and it had a picture of my foster family with my sister in this picture. And it said Ford Tough, right? They were all wearing T-shirts that said Ford Tough, and I was like, okay, like the typical whatever. Like I should be in the picture, but I'm not. And I was clicking on it, reading through the comments, and I noticed a lot of people were saying, "Oh, she's going to be missed. She was a really sweet person," blah blah blah. And I was like, "What's going on?" Totally confused, had no knowledge, and I'm thinking like, "Oh, is it my foster mom? Like, did her cancer come back?" And so I reached out to another foster sister. I said, "Is everything okay? Like, I'm seeing the photos, I'm seeing this," and she's like, "No," and I'm not allowed to talk about it. I said, "Well, is your mom okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, she's fine. I get blocked." So here I am trying to figure out what is going on. I go to another foster sister's page, and she's got a picture of her and my sister together. So at this point, I can't help but think something happened to my sister Nicole, my biological sister, right? So I reach out to my foster brother's biological sister. I said, "Do you know what's going on? Because I'm seeing all of this info. Like, what has he said anything?" And basically, I was told I had to wait for the obituary to come out to find out, that I wasn't allowed to find out. And I was like, "Well, let me tell," like, I went off. Like, I was on a rampage. I was like, "If something happened to Nicole, as her sister, I have a right to know. And this is unfair that you would be that cruel and goes that low as to say, I have to wait for the obituary to come out." So so that night, I went live on TikTok demanding answers. I gave the whole thing. I was like, "Somebody knows my sister. I need somebody to speak up because I'm kind of hearing that like she died, but nobody's really spilling the tea. Like I'm purposely being like left out of the loop." And I had come across Nicole's LinkedIn account, and I noticed that her job said security at Target. And I'm like, and that she had moved back home to Maine. And I'm like, well, this is out of the ordinary for Nicole because my sister was with law enforcement for 12 years plus. So for somebody to leave law enforcement and take security job at Target, that's like taking a down payment. That's taking a lesser pay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, what's going on? So sure enough, a very nice young lady finally speaks up and was like, yeah, is her name, this is her last name. I said, yeah. I said, she worked with the Boston Police Department. And she's like, yeah, we just got the call at Target. They just notified us that she died, and they're saying it was by suicide. I was supposed to cover her shift. I'm here to cover her shift. I said, well, thank you for being honest and saying something to me because my foster parents aren't telling me a word. Like, they had made a public post about it and then like hid it from me. So then I went to make a public post and I got the ream. I got the ridicule for it. And sadly enough, she took her life August 2nd, the day before her 41st birthday. So she never made it to 41. From what I was told at her service was that she missed a day of work. She missed her birthday party, and then she missed another day of work. And I had called her actually. I had called her and texted her the day of her birthday, and I never heard anything. And I thought it was Nicole being typical Nicole, like she wants nothing to do with me because like, I'm just going to keep it very real. Nicole and I, we were at odds. Like we were ticking time bombs. We did not have a good relationship. And so I was like, "What? Okay, whatever." She's not answering me because she never called me on my birthday. And so I was like, "Okay, well, this is Nicole just being Nicole and not wanting to speak to me." And so I was like, "Well, I'm going to up one on you and try to do better, and I'm going to call you or text you on your birthday." I was a day late. And another plot twist is that on the day of my birthday in May, I attempted to take my own life. And so my attempt failed. And then 3 months later, I find out about my sister. So this has unleashed me in ways that you can't even fathom. I was told by the church at large to wipe my tears and get over it and be there for my foster family. So my feelings haven't been put into consideration at all. I've been left out of things. And the only reason why I showed up at her service was because I put my foot down to my foster parents and said, I am her sister. You had both of us in your home for 3.5 years and continued a relationship with us up until we graduated high school. I have a right to be there. I will be there. And their attitude changed when they saw me. Their attitude changed for the better, or so it seemed. They both ran to me, welcoming me, saying, apologizing, like, we're so sorry, like, what, here, we have photos for you to take home. I mean, as far as the photos and everything like that, they handled it beautifully. The service, it was a joke. I'm just going to keep that real. It was a joke. It was a come back to God sermon. Basically, it was a joke.
I have made it
Um,
very clear to people in my life that when I die, whoever is talking at my funeral better not dare say, does someone want to come up and get saved to find Jesus? And David would want that, and David's in a better place. I don't want that. It is not. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be a little selfish, and it's going to be about me.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
my
that
funeral, damn it.
and that's what it should have been about my sister.
Yeah.
And one of my foster brothers was he and I were making eyes, and we're like, this is not what Nicole would want. This is not what Nicole wanted. And I'm going to get to the reason of why it was the way it was. My foster parents, and this is not to, I guess I should just state for the record, like, I am in no way shaming my foster parents. I am no way trying to make them look bad. I am in no way trying to throw them under the bus. I have mad love and respect for them. They raised us for 3.5 years and then some. They were a part of our life until we were at least out of high school. So we have a history, we have a connection. But what I am bringing in is some facts and some truth, because while I love and respect them, they handled it completely wrong. Do I agree? I understand now why they handled it the way they handled it. Do I agree with it? No. But I didn't know. So I found out. My foster brother's like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, mom and dad have security at the church. And I was like, okay. And of course, the sister-in-law is like, yeah, they're probably here for you because, because they're worried that you're going to cause a problem. And I said, with all due respect, I know our foster parent. I know these people better than you. I was raised by them. I know that they wouldn't do that to me. And I said, I don't think that's true. I said they're probably setting up security for one or two people. I said it would make sense for them to have security for my birth mom, because if you've ever been to Maine, you know that it's a small state and some of those towns are small, some of the cities are small, you get to know people. I gave my biological last name and somebody from Maine was like, "Oh, I know that name. I know them." Like, like, we're the town gossip, okay? Um, like, especially if you're up in Dover Foxcroft and like they're like, oh, like they're like, why weren't you in church?
Yeah.
They know. And so it's the same with my birth mom. Everybody knows who she is, right? The police know who she is, and everybody knows who my foster parents are too. So like, if I gave a name, they work for the governor, okay? They work for the state. And so everybody would know, like, oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. And I don't want to say their names for their safety and their
Sure.
protection. I love them, but I was like, what, this doesn't make sense. Like, why would they have? I said, okay, like the chances of my birth mom showing up kind of 50-50. I don't think she's aware. And my brother's like, yeah, they have a picture of somebody. And I was like, what? And I said, well, this could be our aunt, but she's out in Arizona. There's no way. Boy, was I wrong.
Oh, wow.
So, Auntie Dearest showed up and tried to get into the tried to get into the church. She pulled in, walked up, and immediately greeted and was like, no, you've been asked to leave. And she's like, please let me just sit in the back. I won't cause a scene. I won't say anything. And she attempted to get in, and she was literally escorted off to her car off the property by like 10 security guards. And then that's when I found out, like later on, after my foster mom was like, yeah, she showed up. And I was like, bitch, like, and that's in the cult world, that's typical. My aunt was hoping to show up. She was showing up in hopes to play the hero, play the victim, play the hero. I took these girls in and I raised them, and I am real. I was disappointed in how they she walked away from God, but I raised, like, she was trying to take the whole. My foster parents weren't having any of it. So in that aspect, absolutely, they handled that correctly. And I could only imagine, like, I didn't get a say. I didn't get a say in any of the arrangements. I didn't get a say in the service. I wasn't even allowed to stand up and say anything about my sister. So, could just imagining, had I gone up to the pulpit to say something about my sister and I had seen my aunt, there's no way of, like, there's no, I probably would have, And so they were doing it for our protection. And I understand that. Do I agree with how they went about all doing that and keeping me out? No. But I understand, like, the severity of honoring Nicole's wishes and protecting us. And so that, in that aspect, yes, they handled it the right way. Still shitty, right? It's still
Right,
shitty.
right. So many things can be true at the same time, you
Right. And
know?
it's shitty that they're using God to cover it up. And they're using God to cover it up because the governor who they work with, hand in hand, side by side, they find out, oh, their daughter died of suicide. It's a whole thing. Like, you don't, it's a hush hush in the church. Like, it's a very,
Yeah.
Nicole sinned. Nicole did something wrong. And that's not the case. My sister reached out for help at least 5 times. She called 988 and they literally hung up the phone on her. I thought it was a joke. So my sister did reach out. But I mean, the long story short, like, her PTSD and her trauma was too much. Like, she had trauma from law enforcement. She had trauma. Like, I found out she was stalking my my Instagram stories, and my post. And I only know that because she sent me a card, and in that card was like, you never know who's watching your journey. You could inspire somebody. And I was like, oh shit, she's been stalking my page. And I was like, okay, whatever. And just it's the trauma was too much. I think me calling out what was done to me in this organization, it was too much for her. I think that was triggering her own memories that she had not dealt with, because she hadn't dealt with it. And then you bring in law enforcement and you bring in working for the police department as a dispatcher. She was there for the Boston Marathon bombing. Like, she was given a civilian award for her heroism during that time. And then the final straw that broke the camel's back, like, she took a call for a routine traffic stop, from one of her fellow officers that had been shot. And she literally shut the whole city down and was able to move accordingly and get this officer to the hospital and saved his life. But it was in that moment where she was literally having PTSD flashbacks. She was shivering, her hands were clenchy, like, she was just, everything about a flashback she was having. And her coworkers were like, going to the sergeant, going to the supervisor, like, you need to get Nicole off this channel now. And his response was, she signed up for this, she's fine. And that's one of the reasons why my sister had left the police department, was because those that are in the department struggling with mental health, they're not being acknowledged, they're not being helped. They're just being told, well, you signed up for this job, you knew what you were doing, suck it up, buttercup. And my sister wanted to make a change, right? So she left the department and then came back and started training across the country for 911 Institute of Training, and just going around, training responders, first responders, for, how do you cope with this? How do you cope with these calls? Because anybody that's a dispatcher knows that, like, one minute you're getting a call about a woman in labor, and then the next there's a drive-by shooting, and you have to, and so there was a lot there. And then she got mixed up with the wrong person and was dating a guy who had warrants out for his arrest for at least 5 domestic violence assaults. And unfortunately, the South Dakota Police Department found out, and she lost her job, unfortunately. Because I mean, you can't be doing both. You can't be working for the law while you're dating some guy with warrants out for his arrest. And so, yeah, like, and that all to say, my sister died a hero. Like, straight up, she was a hero. She was my hero before she became everybody else's, but she was a hero. And she deserved more than what she got at her service. That whole thing should have been about her. And so that's what made me get back to my book. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tell both of our stories.
I love
And
that. I love
so
that. And
I,
thank you so much for sharing her with us, you know?
Mhm. And it's so weird because a couple of years ago, like, when I first started calling out the abuse, Nicole had found out, and I said, Nicole, I just want to let you know, like, I'm only talking about my part. I'm not naming your name. I'm not talking about your side. That's not for me to share. And she was really appreciative. She's like, thank you for respecting me enough and for not saying it. But now that she's gone, I feel it do justice. Like, I can't not just not say something. And so this book, it is 59 chapters. So it's a long book, but the chapters are short. There's things in this book that I didn't want to write. There's things in here about my sister that I didn't want to share, things about myself that I didn't want to share, but I had to share it because I want people to understand there's a certain group of people giving, like, putting my sister to the public eye in a certain way.
Yeah.
And while I don't want to take away from that, because yes, she did die a hero, and that's a fact, right? We can all agree that's a fact. However, the message that's being portrayed is that she could do no wrong. Like, she could do no wrong. And I'm here to kind of counteract that and say, not that she couldn't do anything wrong. We were flawed and we had another life together. And this is what our life was like. This is what we went through. She was my protector.
Yeah.
She was my protector. Uh, yeah. So we're going to move. She was my protector. First and foremost, she made sure that I had everything that I needed, right? From food to clothing to sleep. In fact, she made it a point that she wouldn't go to sleep until I was asleep. And so having that, when I tell you, like, to survive what we survived by staying quiet.
Yeah.
So we survived. That is how we got out. We got out by staying quiet and leaving notes for each other in my doll cradle, believe it or not. We would stick them in there. We survived, literally. That's how we got out. Just even dealing with our aunt. It was being quiet and just doing what she wanted. Did we agree with it? No. There was there's a chapter in my book that is called the Yankee Candle that smelled like marijuana,
Oh, wow.
because that's what my sister was accused of doing. She was being accused of being upstairs smoking marijuana. Little did she know that no, she was actually burning a pine tree candle. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so there was a story behind that, where my aunt felt like supposedly the Lord was convicting her about having candles in the house, and that it was a sin, and that, we were displeasing the Lord, and my aunt wasn't having any of it.
Wow.
I threw out one candle to appease her just to get her to shut up, and then I hid the rest in our in my doll cradle. And then my sister came home that night from the cult leader's house visiting their daughter, and she decided to burn the candle, and my aunt was having none of it and went up and literally blew out the candle and threw it in the trash. Brand new candle. We had just gotten back from Yankee Candle Factory and with all these candles, and
And they're not cheap.
they're not, no, they're not cheap. And
So
with
let me ask you a couple of questions.
Mhm.
I so to the listener, and we'll talk more about this in the end for sure, but we're gonna share the link, the book name, release date, all that in the show notes, and we'll talk about that in the end. So this is gonna be actually okay. Before I backtrack to ask, because I took some notes on a few things I wanted to ask you, but that was a lot of information you just shared with us, and so I just want to check in and make sure you're good, you're in a good headspace after sharing all that, and
I'm
okay,
good now.
okay. I always appreciate when people ask me that question, but it's almost like at this point I've shared my story so many times that I'm saying it almost as a script and don't even hear myself saying it, so I don't get triggered, you know? And so I did. I just wanted to check in and again to thank you for sharing your sister with us and sharing parts of you with us that you didn't want to share. And what I think is so brave and important that I want to point out is, you were saying there were things that you didn't want to share, that you didn't want to discuss, but you knew that you had to. And we've been following each other for a little while. You've seen me on different lives and my social media posts. Like, I don't shut up about where I stand politically and what I believe in. We don't have to get into that.
Yep, yep.
Um, my listeners all know where I stand, obviously, but I have to be loud and I can't stop. And I don't care if I'm on someone else's live and if they say something that is something that I disagree with, I'm not going to be the hypocrite that sits down and shuts up with it because I made a vow that I was going to speak up and speak loudly. Now, do I always do it the correct way? Absolutely not. Absolutely
Mhm.
not. I'm new at this. I'm new at politics. I'm new at trying to understand things. I'm new at trying to be a loud ally. So I just really appreciate, what you said. And, I think that just shows how true and deep and real this is, that you knew that I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to
Mhm.
share these things, but I have to. And I think that's so important. And I
Mhm.
cannot wait to read the book. Um, okay, so a few questions that I had that's going to backtrack to bring us back. And to you, I also want to point out if you see me looking down, it's because I have my other laptop in front of me and I was like typing out questions because I didn't want to
I
interrupt
thought you
you.
looked it down. I was like, what's he doing over there?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I have like my other laptop, so I was like typing out questions because I didn't want to forget them, but I didn't want to interrupt you. And I was like, oh gosh, I hope she doesn't think that I'm like ordering pizza or something while you're telling your story.
You're ordering pizza. Let's order. Come on.
Bring it. Okay, okay. The psychiatrist that you had, was that a psychiatrist that was part of the cult? Was it a part of the religious organization, or was that an outside resource?
That was an outside resource.
Okay. I kind of figured as you told more of your story because I didn't think that the responses that you were getting from this therapist would have been what the responses you would have got if he or she was part of the organization. So
Mhm.
I was glad to hear that. You spent more time talking about, your sister and her part in the book, which I totally appreciate. But there's a few things I didn't want to just pass by that was about you. Were talking about the point of time of being in the kitchen and holding a knife to your neck, and then you put the knife down and you went to another room. Later on is when all these cops, everything showed up. So do you remember, like, did you really want to hurt yourself? Do you remember what stopped you from doing it? And like, what was a little bit more of your side with that?
So yeah, I definitely was wanting to hurt myself, and that was mainly to get my aunt's attention because I have been screaming for her attention. I have been screaming to, I don't say for her attention, but I had been trying to tell her for years about this pastor who he's not a pastor anymore, but at the time was a pastor who was sexually abusing me. And there's a chapter in my book that I talk about where I'm down in the basement and I'm painting this beautiful picture of a magnolia and listening, believe it or not, to Hillsong. That was my saving grace back then, was Hillsong. And I just want to point out that, like, in this religious organization, we weren't allowed to listen to that. Like, that was Hillsong was new in the 2000s. And so even getting to listen to that was like, what? Cool. Like, anything prior to that, it was CC Winans, which I cannot stand. Whole different, yeah.
I've heard that
That,
from so many people. There's certain things that they were not allowed to do, and certain things that was just constant that they
Mhm.
had to do, and they can't do those things anymore. So, and I find a lot of it with certain types of music.
Yep. And so that was one of them. And so I was downstairs and just painting away, and I heard my aunt come down the stairs, and she was like, "Oh, this is beautiful." And I was literally that day was trying to tell her what he had done, but she already knew.
Mm,
She already knew.
yeah.
And so all of this pinted up for 7 years, there becomes a point where I can't do it anymore. I can't, like, I have to say something, do something. Was it pre-planned? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, there was no I was literally in the kitchen. I was cutting something because I had it in my hand. And in that moment, I was like, you are not getting it. Like, I'm trying to communicate to you. I've been trying to communicate with you, and you're not getting it. And then everything went downhill from there.
Did you hurt yourself at all with the knife?
Yeah, I actually still have the mark from it. There's like no blood, but like I pointed that knife so far into the side of my neck that there was a mark left. So I was dead straight serious at this point. This is not the first attempt. I had attempted back when I was a little younger in her home by taking a handful of adult vitamins. I had tried to attempt during that time as well.
And would
Um,
that, did you think the vitamins were something else? Would taking a handful of vitamins, could that have overdosed you? And forgive my ignorance on that, but
Probably. Oh, absolutely. In fact, I didn't even know it was vitamins. I just took the bottle and they were orange. And I was like, I had no idea. Like, I didn't know. I was a kid, I was a minor, so I didn't know what I was grabbing out of the thing.
yeah.
And so,
But you just somehow knew that taking handfuls of pills
mhm,
would
yep,
cause your life to be over. And
yep,
so regardless of what kind of pills it was, you just saw pills and thought, okay, this is
yep.
what people
That was that was it. I was so miserable in her home. Like, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there. And thankfully, like, enough, like, she called the emergency. Everything's obviously, they're like, yeah, it's a vitamin. She's not, just clean her system out. She's fine. But this is not the first or second time. I've made several attempts in her home to take my own life, because of the abuse that she was allowing and putting up with in her home.
all in the name of the Lord.
Yep.
So, okay, here's another. Well, actually, since I just mentioned the Lord, I'm trying to like have my questions a little bit and where we're not too all over the place. So since we're talking, since we just brought up the religious part again, you had mentioned multiple times a prayer closet. Am I hearing that correctly?
Mhm.
And is was that in your home? And is that a big thing with this cult? And
Yeah.
what all
So,
is the prayer closet for?
so you're like, oh Lord Jesus. Okay.
Because I'm
So,
sensing that it could be for punishment for a child.
yeah, so no, it wasn't that.
Okay.
So, okay, so in the house, so I grew up in Connecticut, right? And so the house was like a four bedroom house. There was a bedroom downstairs in the dining room that was my aunt's roommate's bedroom because we moved in all together, like me, my sister, her, and the roommate. Well, eventually, like, the roommate moved out, she got married, blah, 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 blah. She turned it into like her office with like a couch. And so it was kind of like her office slash. And that was the room that she would go into when she wanted to seek God on something. And she ended up being in there a lot over the years. And it was just nonstop kind of neglecting me. And you're like, well, I really am seeking God right now. There's something going on. Like, what?
Why are you trying to seek God right now? I want a sandwich. Like, I'm hungry.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay. And so a prayer closet is a term used in like the non-denominational Pentecostal setting. It is a thing that they use for hiding away and being one with God and just having that quiet time kind of situation. Teach their own. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You
I
gotta,
I told you there's something we could go all day. I have stories.
I know, we're gonna have to, yeah. So, do you honestly, okay, my mind's in 100 different places. So your aunt was never married?
No.
Isn't part of like a cult and a religion to make sure the woman gets married off and does wifely duties, or was this religion and cult not so much like that?
Not so much like that.
Okay. Because I was thinking like, okay, this woman's never gotten married. She has this prayer closet that she's in a lot of times. Is there another closet that she is in? Like I was like, what demons is she fighting? Because do you think that she was actually doing the seeking God stuff always every hour she was in this closet, or was she doing something that was maybe what would be considered a sin and shameful, so she's hiding from it?
No, she was in there. Most of the time she was on the phone with the head cult leader in New Jersey. That was who she was calling. So she got all her shots from that. Like that's who told her to jump, do it.
Okay.
And then the current leader, same with him. Like anything they told her to do, it was like if they told her how high to jump, she jumped.
Okay.
Um,
So she absolutely weaponized the religion, especially against you all, but she truly believed and thought she was doing the right thing. Like if you hooked her up to a lie detector test, she would think that she was serving God in the church because the leaders of were telling her to do these things. Am I understanding that? Okay.
yep.
Wow. The torture, and this again, it goes back to what I say so many times. Like so many things can be true at the same time. Like it does not justify what she's done to you
Correct.
all, or what. But there's obviously some abuse and manipulation and brainwashing and grooming on her end too.
Oh
But
yeah,
just
you can
because you're a
absolutely
victim of something does not mean you cannot be the predator as well. You
right. 8-hour services. Like yeah, 3 days a week.
know.
So a typical Sunday service, okay, starts at 10 o'clock and it ends at about 5 o'clock. Okay. Praise and worship is less than an hour. And in between all that, there's altar calls, there's deliverance services, there's marching around the sanctuary singing the walls of Jericho will come tumbling down. There's speaking in tongues. Then there's like preaching for hours and hours and hours on end. And then at 5 o'clock we end. Then my aunt and both pastors are in the office counting the offering plate. Now keep mind you, there's only 8 families in this organization at the time. So with 8 families, with a mom and a dad in each family and one offering plate, what are you doing in the office for 3 hours? You're not
How
counting
much
the
money, like, how
yeah,
much
you're not
money can 8 families give a week?
right, right. And I was like, dude, so I'm literally sitting in the sanctuary, just sitting there waiting. So I finally go out to the car, and by this time it's like 5:30, 5:35. And she comes out. And sometimes we'd have to go to the grocery store to grab groceries and then go home and grab lunch, right? And then to turn around, get in the car and go back for prayer service that started at 6:30 and ended at 11 o'clock at night.
Honey, I'd be taking a nap in that prayer closet. I wouldn't be
Listen,
like,
listen, let me tell you. Okay. And then our Wednesday and Friday nights were the same thing. Started at 6:30 and wouldn't end until 11 o'clock at night. And the Friday night, like at least twice a month, there was an overnight prayer meeting. So that means it started
God.
6:30. This specific one I'm recalling started at 6:30 and it didn't end until Saturday, 4 o'clock that afternoon.
Listen, y'all kind of know my opinion on religion and God and all that. If there is one, he does not want to talk to any of us for that long.
Right?
He needs a bathroom break too, I'm sure. You know what I mean? Like his phone's ringing off the hook with everybody else calling him in their prayer closet. Like, give the dude a break. Oh my God.
But he's still even there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he just set the phone down a long time ago and just walked away. Every now and then he'll say, like, okay. So two more questions. You had mentioned public shaming. Can you tell us a little bit about what that involved?
Yeah, so unfortunately, my sister got the brunt of it with that. So little things like if she missed a note playing her flute, like if she didn't hit the right note the right way, it was a public shaming fest the whole service, calling her out, and then it just led to
Like the
conflict.
preacher would be,
Mhm.
and I guess she missed that note because she wasn't in touch with God fully, like it's some
I,
kind of like
so that night we were at one of the 8 hour services on Wednesday night. Like it ended up being a deliverance service, and I was the target. And the current leader, who is still there, by the way, he started playing CC Winan songs at the piano and told my sister to get up and play the flute. Now, my sister wasn't like a professional, like she plays some songs, she could figure it out, right? But this specific song, she didn't know anything about it. She didn't have the music for it. She didn't have the music sheet. And she's like, "Well, I don't know it. Like, I don't know what you like." And he's like, "Well, you're not being obedient, and I've asked you to go do this." And so she literally just played along. She listened for the note, she listened to the tempo and tried to pick it up. And she was publicly shamed for it the next day in school
wow.
in front of the entire student body. Wow. Wow. I was literally watching my third grade teacher be forced to kneel in her own vomit, confessing sins. And then I was getting abused next. Like they came to me next. So it's a whole thing.
My God. Okay. The last question before I get back into details of the book, where you are with it now, to kind of bring it to the conversation to an end, even though I have a million more questions I could ask, which is why we're going to have to read the book, right? Buy and read the book, right? So you had mentioned a couple of times special needs. Is do you mind if I ask what the special need?
Yeah, so I was born with fetal alcohol syndrome. So
Oh,
addicted to alcohol is the nicer term, if you will. Um, because I tell people that and they're like, "What's fetal alcohol?" And I'm like,
right.
do you not know?" I'm like, I was born addicted to alcohol. Like
Yeah.
that's the nicer way of saying it. So I am missing a small piece of the memory portion of my brain on the right side.
Oh,
I only know this because I had an MRI once of my head. I had hit my head or something like that, and the doctor comes out. He's like, "We did find something, and I just want you to know." He's like, "You're missing like a piece of your like the memory portion of your brain," and he knew. He's like, "Yeah, this is from birth. Like you were born like this. Like he put two and two together." And I was like, "Yeah, oh yeah, I know. I was born addicted to alcohol." He's like, "Okay, I just didn't know if you were aware of that. I didn't. I literally." He meant well, but at this point I was ready to slap him because I'm like, dude, like I've known about this since birth. Like
yeah.
there's no like, and I have to educate the doctors and nurses because they don't know that I know, but I know. And so, yeah, I can't even use hand sanitizer without having withdrawals, like anything. No hand sanitizer, nothing with alcohol. I can't have kibacha because it has alcohol in it.
Even okay, so I guess that's something that I did not realize about fetal alcohol syndrome is you're always going to be addicted. You're always going to be sensitive to it. Like you cannot drink.
Yeah, I choose to not drink because of that. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I made the choice. So, my birth mom is an alcoholic. She still is. And, Nicole and I had made our decisions. Like, my sis, like, Nicole didn't want to have kids because of how our birth mom was. She's like, I didn't want to end up like her. However, and this is not to throw shade at my own sister, but she had a drinking problem. My sister is actually in a doc series on Amazon, PTSD 911, and she talks about her drinking issue. And that is from our birth mom. Like, that's how she chose to handle her issues. Me, on the other hand, I want no part of it. Like, I'm like, I want to be a mom. I want to have kids. Like, I'm not going to be like her. Like, how she was, I'm going to strive to not be like her. And that means I'm not going to drink alcohol. I'm not going to put myself around those situations. Yes, will I have to be around people in life who have been drinking? Absolutely. But how am I going to handle that? And I used to not handle it too well. And then I've kind of learned and I've kind of grown and figured out, like, okay, who I'm safe with. And at the end of the day, like, I've gotten to the point where, hey, like, my inner circle of friends, like the ones that I know who would protect me in a heartbeat, I'm okay with it. If we're out to dinner and you want to have a drink, I'm fine with that. Like, I'm not going to get triggered. But if you bring me to a bar, it's
Yeah.
done. Don't even attempt. So I can't use hand sanitizer. I can't have any drink with any kind of alcohol in it. I just can't. Like, I have instant withdrawals.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, you did your job right with wanting me to read the book. So thank you for that. Before I get to the final, like, fun-ish bulk question, tell us about. So I saw on social media the other day that the release date of the book has been changed.
Yes.
Has it now been confirmed? And where do you stand? Like, where are we at now with the book?
Yeah. So, well, that was a mess too.
I was
And,
keeping
and,
up with you on
and
social
so
about it.
actually, speaking of which, the friend that's helping me edit it just texted me today, and he was like, I have the whole thing like ready to go. And he was the one that actually pointed out 2 days before January 1st. He's like, I'm on Amazon and I see your book is still up and it's only showing 2 pages. And I'm like, okay, so let me go look. Sure enough, it was the ebook, and it was literally the cover photo and a picture of me and my sister. And I was like, oh shit. I was like,
They
so I
they released that, but not the.
no, so he's like, you might want to call and see what you can do because at this point it's blocked. So there becomes this point with Amazon, they block it so that way you cannot go in and add or change anything, and they publish it like you have a certain amount of days. So at this
Gotcha.
point, I was like freaking out because I'm like, 12 people pre-ordered my book at $10, right? So $10 to get 2 pages and their pictures, that's not jokingly, right? Because my heart, like, I'm not trying to take anybody's money. And I said, well,
Sure.
and so he's like, well, your best option right now is to go in and unpublish it. So that way people automatically get the refund and we can just reset the new date. And then he's like, don't worry, like, I'm going to go in to DTN, which is like a room on social media that we go into. And he's like, I'll let everybody know that, like, we just wanted to release all 3 books at the same time. So that way there's no lapping. So, new release date is February 1st. I do not have a link yet. In fact, he called me today because he wants to get on a call with me and then he wants to get on a 3-way with Amazon to make sure everything is good.
Well,
So,
that
it's
could be
February.
perfect timing because where I'm pre-recorded, I
Mhm.
do a bunch of recordings, and so this won't be released until after February 1st. So I'll be able to insert the link and everything then into the show
Beautiful.
notes with whatever you approve of,
Yeah,
me doing. Yeah.
beautiful. Oh, that will work great. So I have a call with him later today, this evening, to make sure that's all good. And that's just, there's when you're doing an ebook, it's pretty easy. But when you're doing a hardcover and soft cover, it's like the dimensions have to be just right, you guys. And the cover, the cover, he and I co-created this. And this is somebody who doesn't, he runs a true crime podcast. It's Debate the News True Crime Podcast over on Chatter Social.
Please
He
connect me with him. I love true crime.
Okay, so yeah. If you have, just download Chatter Social on your phone. I'm telling you, it's a life changer. And then go into Debate the News. There's Debate the News, and then there's Debate the News True Crime. Joseph Labasco is the one that runs that one. He is amazing. I have to give him a shout out because there was some backlash that I received on Chatter because of my book and because of my story, and some things aspired, and my whole community, I have a small community on there, and they all rose to the occasion. They all backed me up, they defended me, they protected me, and Joseph reached out and was like, send your manuscript to me, let me see what I could do to help you.
Was it
Let
someone from the church that tracked you down and found you when they heard you were doing the book? Do you mind if I
No,
ask, like, what the?
just people in on social media
Okay.
being, mocking my story and trying to say I'm lying. You know how people can get on social media.
Oh yeah. But
And
you know what?
so,
I found that every time that happens, my numbers go up. And so I'm like, you
mhm.
know what? It's like Taylor Swift said, there's no such thing as bad publicity. So,
And when I tell you what, when you're being talked about, you're doing something right.
right.
And so,
Right.
yeah, and so in that moment, I had a choice to either be let the old me come out and go in there and play into their bullshit, or stand down, so to speak, and let those that are in my community know who I am, will rise and support and protect. And that's what they did. And they're like, whoa, dude, like, it was addressed. They're like, what you're doing is wrong. And then Joseph was like, send me your cover design, because I created the original cover design, and then he just co-created and made it into this beautiful thing of a Barbie doll head, like half a Barbie.
You
If
sent
you've
me a
seen,
picture of it. It's really
yeah,
cool.
it looks like a crime scene. So it's
Yeah.
really, we co-created. He did a really good job. He doesn't edit, like, he'll edit podcasts, but he doesn't edit books. And so the fact that he even took the time, like, I'm trying to even get him on the cover design of my book, he won't let me. Like, he just does not. He's like, I don't want that. Like, I just want your story out. Like, I put him in the acknowledgments, but that doesn't do justice. So yeah, February 1st is the date, and I will have an update for you, after all of that, once we get it up into.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. Definitely keep me because I want to make sure we share links and all that on social medias and just really support you.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so my last question that I'll ask as I'm closing out. This is gonna be I do a question from the Ish Bowl where I'm just supposed to ask a question like pineapple on pizza kind of thing.
Okay.
But I'm gonna let this be the question because just because it's on topic and I'm curious. Where do you stand with religion now?
It's disgusting. I hate it. I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it with my
So
whole heart.
do you identify as an atheist or do you still believe, just not organized? Like where do you?
No, I am a I guess you could say I'm atheist. I don't affiliate.
Yeah, yeah,
There's no there's no I cringe when I hear people say, "Well, isn't God good?" Shut the fuck up. Like,
uh,
and no, tell me, I don't want to hear how good your God is until all the pedophile pastors are out of the church. Then we can talk about how good your God is.
then we'll talk.
Then we'll talk. Yeah, don't get I, you don't want me preaching at your church because I'll have the whole church cleared out in 2 minutes.
Exactly. All right, Heather, thank you so much for being with us. Tell us again the name of your book.
Yeah, it is the Barbie Pink Walls, that kept the secrets of my abuse. It's a memoir of this physical and spiritual and sexual abuse that I endured inside, the walls of this organization.
Yeah. Um, Again, thank you for being here. And I know it's so hard to throw everything into a 1 hour conversation.